The last star, Kalia Null, floated through the suspended bridgeway, overlooking a near-infinite series of bridgeways and supports that stretched down and up, wrapped all around Alma Inf, the final star in the universe. Shielded behind a protective frostglass window, it was already red. The mechanical doors opened as she extended her presence and let the door interface with her. Inside the domed chamber were people and things of all shapes. Heads, eyes, and perceivers looked to her as the last to enter. "Welcome, Kalia Zero. We are complete for this round table." The voice came from all around, from the domed room itself. It took centuries, but communication was eased across all language barriers thanks to translation technology created by 5 different species and contributed to by countless others. Our topic for today is singular. Our star, Sol Omega, Alma Infinite, Verev, all our names. Calculations call for it to last 100 years at most, likely less. The room added. The room was silent. Silent in all forms, acoustic, psionic, neural, and everything else. This, though, it didn't need translating. It was perhaps a universal constant across all species. Silence was a sign of deep thought, the absence of easy words. And morning, "We will make more fusion batteries like we always have," came the vibrating vocalizations of Tierlin, one of the representatives of the aquatically amorphous OVT. That should give us at least half. They were cut off by a chittering neural voice. "No more energy," Kadrat said. Akrid, using her many legs to talk, "cannot make more batteries without energy for them. Our trawlers have trawled. No more heat except those in us. No more energy except those in our machines. And we won't feed our own bodies into the red maw." That's counterintuitive. Tierlin was quiet, before turning to Kalia Null. "What about conversions, Kalia Zero?" Kalia Null shook her head, in mimic to the humanoid negative. "Alma Inf is on her heaviest element. We cannot convert into heavier. There are no more that we or any other species know. Beyond that, having her fuse a denser material would just create a singularity, and so our situation is still death." Her final line caused the crowd in the room to talk and argue. It was a truth that had been hanging over their heads, but it was unkind of her to bring to the front. "Apologies." The room went silent again. Before long, the room called out, "Any more ideas? Any would be welcome." One of the representatives raised her hand. "The humans, 2 legs, 2 arms, a body and a head." The more xenophobic species of old would have called them hideous, while at the same time talking up Kalia Null's own Sarah Apira as beautiful. There was admittedly some eerie resemblance between her species and humans, though these thoughts were not relevant. "Sorry, Otto, Lee Velasco," the gold-haired woman spoke with their acoustic sound waves. "It was just a bit of stunned silence, on my part. We did have an idea, yes, but it won't be well received," she said. "Better something than nothing." A glass-suited Alun added. "This one," Kalia Null didn't know. Lee sighed. "We'd have to cut the sun's lifespan in half." That made the room erupt in all sorts of clamor. "We need to power a device that will fold space-time our way, and for that, we need Sol Omega's energy, a lot of it." Lee shouted over all kinds of arguments. That her voice was acoustic did help. "Why?" Kadrat asked. "Even if you could bring the edges of space together, our trawlers have nothing to scoop and collect. This isn't for that." She trailed off, and took another breath. "We'll give it to you straight. This device is intended to collapse the universe, then, using that potential energy, create a massive expansion." "What?" Kalia Null spoke in her presence-carried voice, almost instinctively. "So it's just suicide," Tierlin added. The room continued in silence. "No, it's not death, not for everyone. We've known the universe would end eventually, I think all of us did." She looked around. "We theorized different ways for the end of the world, mostly as idle thought experiments, but the less and less stars there were in the sky, and the more time passed, the more we had to adapt and experiment, actually test those thoughts and theories. And from where we're standing, it's starting to look very close to heat death. That's true silence, nothing lives, no energy, no change, just full nothing, forever. We tried to find ways to stop that, ways to break the limits and laws, but they were too restrictive, or destructive. So hey, why not embrace that destruction? We've done that a lot and we do it well. Controlled burns, nuclear terraformation, mind-shatter reconstitutions, even our first rockets. In our theories of the end, there's something called the Big Crunch, like how our universe started with a bang. Perhaps energy would have ran rampant enough that it would collapse into a single point before exploding again, starting anew. Obviously that's not what happened, but we can make it happen. Our own Big Crunch." Lee had to pause again. The crowd was throwing questions her way, too many to properly sort and answer, but Kalia Null was already starting to understand why that would be preferable to going out like a candle. "It's not suicide. We know, we've asked and tested, and a lot of species can survive in one way or another past the crunch. You will be changed, but you'll be able to continue, and live again eventually." She was right, at least the Sarah Apira would be able to infuse their presence into matter and space. All they needed was energy, which the crunch could provide. As she ran it through her head, every species in their union could live through it, The Crid's neural forms could become plasma, and then atoms, but reconstitute from there. The Elune were of energy. Even the seemingly purely biological Of-T could go into an invulnerable stasis. All they needed was energy to wake again. All the species, except, and what of you humans? Kalia Null asked. Oh, well, Lee seemed to slowly lose her wind as she spoke. Well, it was a lose-lose anyway. Either we die with everyone, or we die and everyone else doesn't. Silence. Once more. It's okay though, she continued, we wanted to thank you. That at the end of the world, we all faced it as people, not all as friends, sure, but not as enemies either. We didn't die fighting. We didn't look despair in the face as it killed us. No war. We go willingly. The Post-Terran League all agreed. If the Union does too, she said with a smile, with tears, her species' way of sorrow, and of many other things. We live on, in here, she said, as she pointed to her own head. If you remember us. In time, in the billions of years, when species after species woke again, when sapience was rediscovered, many built halls of remembrance, museums, archives, and grand gestures of thanks for their human friends who gave them a universe. Kalia Null walked, not floated, down a busy street on Nova Alpha. It was her own small way of remembering, a bit inspired by a certain game that I probably can't say the title of for implied spoilers. Lol, sorry for the abandoned stories in the past though, but a short one this time. I'm more suited to shorts rather than long-form updatings.